What is going on, everybody? Rajay back with the pop-up surprise. Well, not surprise, it was actually planned, but a Wednesday live stream. So some of you are looking down like, wait a minute, is it Thursday? No, I wish it was one more day ahead in the week, but it is not. So tomorrow night we will have the happy hour live stream, but this will be a special one here with the Ohio Craft Brewers Association. And I have the great pleasure of having on Mary MacDonald, who is the executive director. Also, Justin Hemminger, who is the deputy director. So that being said, I'm going to bring them both up here, give them a little applause with the little fake studio clap that we have. So welcome. It's great to have you two on. And for those of you watching, Justin, I've actually known somewhat through emails, like I said, for a number of years from being in Ohio. And he's connecting me with a lot of different things that were taking place throughout the state. Mary, I just had the honor of meeting here recently. And reached back out because, as some of you know, I'm in the process of relocating back to Ohio as we are moving back actually next week. So coming back to Ohio after being in Baltimore for a 3-year stint. So you're going to be seeing a lot more Ohio beers upcoming, which will be great. I know they'll be happy about that here. And we'll be telling a lot more of those stories. And we already got the date out there for February 1st for the Cincinnati Winter Beer Fest. So you know I will be in attendance for that too. So a lot of good stuff going on. But welcome to you both. Great to have you on and great to have you make an appearance here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so a lot of good things happening in Ohio. You know, being there for a number of years, one of the things I used to always kind of hint at with people was kind of like a secret little oasis in the Midwest. It's almost like a flyover state when it comes to beer. A lot of people are realizing it now, but a lot of people weren't realizing it before as much, which now they're starting to say, hey, you got some beer down there in Ohio, right? Like you've got like Fatheads and you got like Rhine Guys and you got, you know, all the different ones that go down Great Lakes, you know, Jackie O's. All, yeah. Can you get us some of that? Well, yeah, probably could. So yeah. So the word is definitely out about all the good things that are happening. And so being there with the Ohio Brewers Association, like what are you seeing now with the landscape of beer in Ohio?
Well, I mean, we're spoiled, right? We both live in Columbus, so we're central. I think we're 5 minutes from a brewery, no matter where you are in Columbus. And you're probably 5 miles from a brewery, most of the places you are in Ohio now. I think last we checked, we had breweries in 77 of 88 counties. Justin's the statistics man. I just try to repeat them adequately when I've learned them.
If you're with the big numbers, if you're close, it's horseshoes. It's fine.
Great. I mean, we've got 440 breweries now. I started 11 years ago when there were 58. So we have grown by leaps and bounds, as has the craft beer scene nationwide. But we're really fortunate in Ohio to have so many great breweries.
Yeah, and I think when I left a few years back, maybe right before I left, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, I think the number I just went over to 400. So steadily seeing a little bit of improvement. We've had some that have, you know, went back where some had to close, but then when someone closes, like someone else is there to open up a new one, right? So it's kind of been a good process in that regard because you always hate positive. You're still in a positive, and you always hate to see when people have a brewery close down because then you're like, that brewery's gone. You have a lot of emotions tied to it, possibly a lot of, you know, things that you've done there, but also the people that might be out of a job. And then another one comes along. Hey, you guys we're going to open this one. You guys can work for us type thing. So it's always kind of good in that regard that there's always like someone at least currently still being able to fill in. And the beer community in itself, and a lot of people that, you know, watch here that do the beer stuff, they kind of know that out there, but it's really almost like I won't say it's, I guess, a unique community because there's probably other communities like that, but the beer community is very different. Like you have a lot of camaraderie that takes place.
Yeah, let's say it's different in a good way, Rod.
Yeah, right. In a good way. That's the good thing. So it's kind of like when we talked about this on some of the other shows previously, is when a brewery is out of something, a lot of other breweries come to help them, right? So it's not like the old Pepsi Coke wars where it's like, haha, you don't got any, we're going to knock you out now. So it's like everybody kind of throws in a hand when they can, which is great. And then the people in the community, not just at the brewery, but just the people that are beer advocates and all that kind of stuff, it's like it all becomes this nice tight-knit community as well, which is great. So I think for me, I've always felt like beer is kind of that great thing that brings people together. And you see it so commonly when you deal with a lot of breweries and stuff. So it's a great elixir, as I like to say, like you can basically do anything. And we just joke around like how many times there's probably been world discussions over a beer, right? So it's just a great thing. It's a great thing. I know you guys agree. That's why you're doing a Brewers Association, all that kind of stuff. But just wanted to kind of put that out there. But what led you to be a part of the brewing industry? Like, what got you into beer? And then what made you say, I wouldn't even throw myself more into beer, but like doing things here with the association?
I guess I'll go first because I get the ranking officer here. So I spent my junior year abroad in Luxembourg because I went to Miami University specifically because they had a good study abroad program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a junior. So I was 20. I turned 21 while I was there. And then when I came back to Little Oxford, Ohio, we were no longer going to drink the Busch Light or whatever inferior beer from our standpoint when we'd been blessed with all those beers in France and Germany and Belgium, right?
Right.
Well, I think that was my entree into better beer, and it started with imported beer because there wasn't craft beer when I was graduating college because I'm an old person. So there you have that. And then in my course of my job history, I started working at the North Market, Columbus's public market. And we had a very successful Ohio Wine Festival. And my boss and I were standing on the porch one day, and Barley's, which opened in 1992, is literally across the parking lot. And he looks at me and he goes, "You think we could do the same thing we do with the wine festival with beer?" And I was like, "I don't know. Hold my beer. Let's see." So we created the first Columbus Microbrew Festival, I'm going to say in 2009. And there were 6 breweries in Columbus at the time, starting with Columbus Brewing Company, Elevator, Gordon Biersch, Barley's, Smokehouse, and I'm missing one, but there were 6 breweries at the time. And then the next year there were 8, and then the following year there were 12, and it just every year it kept growing. We weren't sure if people would come the first year. We opened on a Friday night, and like 1,000 people showed up at the North Market to drink craft beer at the North Market. So it was definitely a success. And then ultimately led me to this job because I got to know enough of the breweries. They had the Ohio Craft Brewers Association, but it was being run on volunteer efforts on the part of people like John Dayway from Thirsty Dog and Eric Bean, and they were all running breweries and then trying to do, association stuff on the side. And they just decided that wasn't effective and they needed to hire someone to do all the things that to help move the organization forward.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up there.
Nice. What about you, Justin?
My beer origin story is very similar, except I was a junior in high school and not in college.
I'm probably the old guy here, right? Y'all are making me feel older now. I'm a Cocoon movie. Go ahead.
I've got plenty of grays here to prove
I got my
credentials, right? But yeah, I was in a German exchange program, and I went to Cologne when I was a junior in high school, and kind of got exposed to, the German beer culture, from a relatively young age. And I came back not thinking that I would never drink macro swill ever again, but in fact, whatever you could get your hands on, for until you turn 21, that's college, right?
Right.
I was a mostly responsible college kid, but I did have that that light bulb go off. Like, hey, there's way more to beer than just what people are drinking at parties here. After that, went into I got a degree in communications. I was working as a communications and marketing person for a company that did merchandising for political campaigns. So I got like a toe in the political advocacy world and a toe in business, and got to put my degree to some use at least. And then that company downsized after about 7 years of me working there, and I was like, all right, full stop. I need to do a total change of career here. Got into bars, restaurants, hospitality. Ended up as a buyer for a bar that I had a stake in Columbus that was attached to a former independent radio station that had a lot of Ohio pride. So the Extension Bar also had a lot of Ohio pride. So I ended up meeting pretty much all of the Ohio sales reps or Columbus sales reps, getting to know a lot of people in the industry that way, getting to know like what people were into, what breweries were popular, and who was doing interesting stuff. And then after a couple of years of that, the schedule of bar life gets a little hard to take the older you get. So I was looking for a more banker's hours kind of opportunity, and Mary was looking to add a second person to staff because the organization was growing so much. So I put in a resume and it floated to the top.
We're not on banker's hours, much to my dismay.
Oh no! It's in the other stream we did today. I started out saying 9 to 5, and I think I ended up saying 7 to 7, or sometimes
and the weekends
longer,
when there's a beer fest, and yeah.
If you get banker's hours in the beer area, people are going to be jealous of you for sure.
Yeah.
There's a misconception that we drink beer all day too. Oh, you've got the best job. Oh, yeah. You said you get to visit breweries and drink beer all day. I'm like, I do get to visit breweries, but I'm not drinking beer all day because I would be totally ineffective if that's all we were doing all day.
Yeah. That's a common thing too from doing like the beer channel and the beer pocket. Like people just think like you're always drinking beer, and other beer reviewers, stuff like that. It's like, no, like a lot of us, we drink like maybe in the weekend when we do reviews and all that kind of stuff. We take it easier in the week. Moderation is always a big thing that a lot of us talk about. You got to find that balance and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like we're getting. Now I do know some guys and some gals that do drink almost every day, but at some point that's going to catch up with them. So sometimes you got to let them learn themselves. But yeah, you try to definitely get that balance. And I feel like if you did it every day, you would burn yourself out anyway. I don't know why you want to do that. Like you had to work something to work toward, something to enjoy. Speaking of enjoy, because we are a beer show and we are a beer channel, we are enjoying some beer. So I haven't cracked mine open yet. But Mary, what have you cracked open over there to actually enjoy this?
I've got the Phoenix Brewing Company Danger City Brown Ale. Okay. Because I grew up in Cleveland, and I like to pretend that someday the Browns will do something other than Browns it up at the end of many a game.
That's tough for a Browns fan. I mean, although I was down in the Cincinnati area, it's been tough for a Bengal, but they finally made it to the Super Bowl again. So, but this year's been a little bit of a disaster for them. And they're like, "You're in Baltimore. Are you a Ravens fan?" Like, no, I'm not really. Like, oh, you better not be a Ravens fan and come back. Like the R word, right? So it's like the only weekend when they probably cheer for Pittsburgh. Yeah, the only weekend they cheer for Pittsburgh, right? Because Pittsburgh beat the Ravens. So. Yeah. Oh, what about you, Justin? What do you have over there?
It wouldn't be creeping up on the holidays in Ohio if I wasn't drinking a Christmas beer.
Those.
Thirsty Dog, 12 Dogs of Christmas. One of the originals in the style that launched 1,000 other beers. So,
which is so funny you mentioned that, because when you said Thirsty Dog earlier, that's the first beer that popped in my head. I'm like, it's that time of year for 12 Dogs of Christmas. So
yeah.
All right.
Which is funny because we were earlier. Someone was like, "What's going on in Ohio now? What are the beer styles?" Like we missed the obvious. Like, oh no, Ohio is really, really, really known for its holiday Christmas ales, and we have a whole festival surrounding that. And somehow, that wasn't one of the themes.
Yeah, speaking of Christmas, Great Lakes, they decided, and they've done it for a while now, but Christmas in July, right? So they cracked open a special at the brewery. If you were in that area around Cleveland, you can go in and get the Christmas ale a little early. So,
I mean, I would bet they were brewing Christmas ale in July.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it with Great Lakes.
Wait, Justin, what's the stat? If they only brew Christmas ale?
I think they make something on order of about 30,000 barrels of Christmas ale a year. So if they only brewed Christmas ale, they'd still be, I think, like the the 5th or 6th biggest brewery in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
Like, if you cut out all the Dortmunder and all the IBA and
Elliot,
and everything
all that
else,
stuff. Yeah.
just Christmas Ale, still huge.
Well, they've definitely been a big anchor for the state. And a couple of the comments here. KO, I'm in the mood for some Hoppin' Frog, another great brewery out of Ohio. And he's actually out in Oregon, but he can get it out there too. So he's on board with the Hoppin' Frog as well. So a lot of good beers, and we'll talk about that, a little bit of distribution stuff. But it just so happened that I actually have an Ohio beer here. And it came from one of my buddies who has another channel, Beer Day with TK, a while back. Sent it down, and we were going to do kind of a review, but it was kind of with me moving. It didn't really pan out. But you say, you know what? I am going to be on with the Ohio Brewers Association. So I have from Jackie O's. I know you guys are familiar with this.
That's a good one.
Dark Apparition Imperial
It's
Stout. And I'm like, I'll do that tonight because you know what? I'm going to Ohio. I can get more of this anything I want now.
You might win the ABV. You might win the highest ABV too there.
Yeah, this one here is a 10%. But see, on this channel, like for us, that's like session now. So we always joke about like, I mean, we get some of the bigger beers on here. So yeah, and we still get up and go to work the next day. But yeah, early the next day. But again, it's finding your level and finding out what you can actually do and drink and enjoy and control, right? But being down in Cincinnati, I had the great fortune of also being down there with a place you probably know called Jungle Gyms. So there's never any shortage of beer around that area for sure. So
the Disney World of grocery stores.
Yeah. It's. I have friends that go there. One of the co-hosts on our Thursday night live stream, him and his wife just went a few weeks ago because now they started a beer channel. They're out of Indiana. They're just south of Cincinnati there, across from Louisville. And had not been there a while. I think it was her first time going there. It was just like amazed how this place was huge and stuff. And then I had one of our other friends who's another beer reviewer out of Missouri. Him and his wife had stopped there on the way back, but they had drove up from Missouri. And he had to just put his hands up and leave. Like he couldn't do it anymore. And the wife was asking, like, don't you want to get this beer or that? He's like, I can't do it. I'm done. I can't. It's just so next year he's coming back. And I said, well, you're back next year. I'll be there too. So I can be your tour guide and get you through everything. And we could sit there and have a pint there at the bar and all that stuff. But he loved it.
You went straight for the beer section. Just so pointers on, I am going to the beer section.
There's so many good things there.
25-foot wall of cheese.
Yeah. I showed people the hot sauce area before, and that's like bigger than some people's offices, that little hot sauce square they got back in the corner. So yeah, Jungle Gyms is an adult playground for the different foods and beers and cigars, and they're attached where they have the liquor store next to them because of the law. They can't be in there with it, but it's just anything you could possibly want is right there. And if you get tired, they got the pint set up. So you can just sit there, grab something off tap, relax for a little bit. Some people don't even shop. They just go there to drink what's on tap, right? Like they don't even get a card or anything. They go right to the bar, get a glass, and they're just sitting there relaxing, you know? So
that's a lot of grocery stores. Our Giant Eagle market districts have half of them have bars now. They've got regulars, just like the corner bar has regulars.
Yeah, before we moved, Kroger was starting to put them in a couple of the spots in Cincinnati. So I was living on the Kentucky side where they couldn't do that, but on the Ohio side, like in Hyde Park and a few other areas, they put taps in. So now that we're going back, we're going to be on the Ohio side. So yeah, you might see me at Kroger, not shopping, but just drinking, just sitting there drinking. Maybe I get a little box of square thing of cheese, and I'll pair it up and have a cheese and beer thing right there in the middle of the grocery store.
They've got the glass holder in the grocery cart now, right? Like they're prepared for you. But people who've been drinking, they're a little tipsy. You buy a lot more. You buy a lot more things.
You definitely buy more when you're drinking. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's why it's like when people used to go to the malls more than they do now. But I can remember like during the Christmas season, you would go there and you would hit like the whatever place was there, like restaurant or bar, before you started shopping, and sales were up because you were just like, oh, I'll get this here. She'll like this. He'll like this. You're just getting all kinds of stuff because you're feeling good. You're just feeling good. So you get the credit card bill a month later, like, whoa, I didn't know I spent that much. So yeah, but alcohol, it could bring that out in some people. So one thing we were talking about pre-show and stuff like that and everything. We have the bill that's taking place, so we can get into that a little bit here. And I know it's about looking to reform Ohio's alcoholic beverage trend. Like, what's going on with all of that stuff there? Because each state has their own little different type thing, right? So I know Ohio's trying to push their stuff through. When I was there before, I feel like Ohio had just went a few years back where they could even increase the ABV. So Ohio was a little bit lower than like Kentucky was. Kentucky, we had a higher level we could do and stuff, which is why some people came over to Party Source and they didn't go over there. I guess it's tossing
Well,
Ohio.
and
But
you
now,
just want to go to Party Source. I mean, but yes.
Yeah.
2016, the ABV, we were trying to raise it, and they just said, well, let's just take the ABV off so we don't have to talk about this again in 5 years or 2 years when you guys want to now make a 18% beer instead of a 16% beer. So that was a bit ago. And then we got a lot of stuff through during the pandemic because legislators were willing to do a lot of things that they wouldn't have done under normal circumstances to help small businesses. And then when they made those changes and the sky didn't fall, they're like, oh, well, I guess we can leave those things in place. Like, being able to get a beverage delivered with your meal or the designated outdoor refreshment areas and things like that. But what we're working on now is franchise law reform. And to your point, we have 50 United States, and that is the same patchwork. That is a patchwork of alcohol regulation because states regulate the alcohol policies within each state. So in our case, the Ohio Alcoholic Beverages Franchise Law was created in 1974. There were 116 total breweries in the United States, and there were about 200 mom and pop wholesale beer distributors. So the breweries are manufacturers, the wholesale beer distributors are deliverers, and then you got your retail outlets like Jungle Gyms. And we're a 3-tier state in Ohio, so most beer goes from the manufacturer to the wholesale beer distributor to the retailer. Now we have some exceptions in Ohio, mostly for craft brewers. So as craft brewers, we can self-distribute up to 1 million barrels of beer. But once a brewery hits a certain size, a lot of them will sign up with the wholesale beer distributor because, like Rheingeist, they might be great at distributing within their hometown of Cincinnati, and they might be willing to go up to Columbus or Dayton. But when you start getting to Cleveland or Toledo, it makes sense for them to possibly hire a wholesale beer distributor who's going to have lots of contacts with accounts and things like that. So in 1974, 200 small mom and pop wholesale beer distributors, and the big breweries, again, only 116 breweries, so they're fairly large in size. And a wholesale beer distributor probably represented maybe 1 or 2 brands. So the Jenkins family distributed Anheuser-Busch beer in Franklin County, and the LaRose family distributed it in Cuyahoga County. And then there's other distributors because it's usually county by county that someone represents a brand. Well, those big manufacturers started throwing their weight around. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. If you don't do the things we tell you to do, we're going to take our business away. And if a big brewery like that pulled their business from a small mom and pop wholesale distributor, that family is probably going out of business, right? And so they created franchise laws that basically create a effectively evergreen contract that automatically renews unless you take your wholesale beer distributor to court and prove just cause that says, hey, they're not treating my brand right. I want to take it back. But just cause is deliberately not defined in the statute. So a small brewery usually doesn't have the wherewithal to sue their wholesale beer distributor to get out of that contract. So what we're looking to do is have the law change so that breweries under 250,000 barrels of production, which is all of the craft breweries in Ohio, would be able to just negotiate one-on-one with their independent wholesale beer distributors. So in the event that your relationship goes bad someday, you've written a contract, you know what the terms under which you can get out of it and who gets paid what, things like that. Things that contract law was created to solve is, hey, we're going into this thinking everything's going to be great, but in the eventuality that something doesn't go as well, here's how it's going to shake out per our contract.
Gotcha.
And the wrinkle here really is, if things do go bad between a brewery and a wholesale distributor, if the brewery does have the resources to take the distributor to court, they're still in the business arrangement with the wholesaler. So while they're suing their wholesaler, the wholesaler is still responsible for putting their product in the market. Now, that sounds like a conflict to me as someone who, can just kind of look at that like, hey, if I have an issue with you, I should be able to take my business elsewhere until we figure something out.
Right.
As opposed to it's like, oh, hey, well, if you sue me, I'm no longer going to sell your products in the market, and you can't do anything about it because of franchise law. Like, that's really like there's no recourse for a brewery who's in an arrangement like this where they have a fair way to keep their business going and litigate a contract issue with a wholesaler because of the law, this 50-year-old law that was never meant to apply to a small brewery.
Right. And whereas there were 200 wholesalers in the past, this is such a lucrative law that they've consolidated and bought each other up. And so now there's not 200 anymore. There's effectively a couple dozen of them, right? So in any given market, you only have a choice of like 4 to 6 wholesalers that you could sign to take your beer to market. And so we think that this is reasonable because you don't get married after 90 days. If a brewery, if a wholesaler has your brand for 90 days and you haven't signed a contract with them, but you haven't specifically taken back your brand rights per the law, which they wrote, it's now their brand in perpetuity, right? And if you started that relationship, you're supposed to sign a contract with them within 90 days. And our point is like, look, you wouldn't get married. Probably. Most people don't get married after 90 days, right?
Most people, right? But there are those rare guys.
Right? But if you do, you can get a divorce. It's harder to get out of your wholesale contract than it is to get a divorce in Ohio. and you know, these are businesses, right? And so it lets a wholesaler completely change their business model.
Right.
And then brewery can't react. So during the pandemic, like sales forces were slashed with wholesale beer distributors.
Oh, yeah.
They're not back, right? But you're still stuck with that distributor if you sign with them. You could have signed with them 10 years ago. They can change their business model, but you can't react to say, you know what, this isn't working out anymore. We need to find someone who's more responsive to our needs, more into taking care of our brands and wants to get us into places and just operates as a better business partner for us where we are now, right? Everything might have been great before, but business has changed.
Yeah, I mean, then you get stuck there, right? If you, as the young kids would say, the math isn't mathing, right? Like, right. So, that is it.
Everything was great. It was right 10 years ago. Craft beer was on an upward trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're a mature market now. It's a lot more crowded market now. It's more competitive. Mm-hmm. And while the wholesalers can take actions to protect their businesses, sometimes that's at the expense of a brewery. And we don't have the same flexibility to change wholesale distributors if we need to.
Yeah. That puts a big disadvantage on those breweries. So when is it going to be in front of the state Congress or whatever?
Right. So Senate Bill 138 was introduced in 2023. Yeah, at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. And then House Bill 306 was introduced earlier this year. We've had 2 hearings on each one. So sponsor testimony. So in the case of the Senate bill, it was Senator Andrew Brenner. In the case of the House bill, it's Representatives Barhorst and Hillier. They both gave sponsor testimony. Then we gave proponent testimony saying we're in favor of this and here's why. And some of our breweries spoke. And now you need a 3rd hearing per Ohio law, and that would be opponent testimony. And the wholesalers are not exactly beating down the doors of the legislature to demand that they have that 3rd hearing, because if it never comes to the vote, then they just killed our bill in committee. And this is the 135th state assembly until December 31st. And we start with the 136th on January 1st. So basically we'll have to start all over again.
So they're going to delay it out.
That's where we are. Right?
Yeah.
If you are an Ohio resident and you feel very strongly that we should get this law through, you can go to ohiocraftbeer.org/freedom and learn more about franchise law and what we're trying to do and trying to change. And then there's a grassroots form where if you put in your address, it'll tell you who your state legislators are, your senator and representative. And there's a pre-written letter that says, hey, help us help Ohio breweries. You can sign your name to it. It'll send that automatically to your state representatives.
Excellent. And then, Justin, if you want to get me any of those details or whatever, then I can get them out to the site and a few other people that I know around the state and stuff too, to hopefully get some stuff there. Put some pressure on these people to do something, right? So
we're in lame duck. So
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, your turn.
No, I mean, to your point, we're in the lame duck session right now, post-election. This is a time when the State House and Senate are both basically trying to like cram in things that they, you know, have waited on until they're fewer consequences to, you know, or shorter time for anyone to talk about it, right? So like these are like, this is actually a very busy time in the assembly. So yeah, like getting people to contact their legislators right now is actually very helpful, because if we can get that, if we can get that third hearing in on either side and get the bills moving forward eventually toward a floor vote, it's possible that it could pass by the end of the year. It's probably more likely that we'll be starting over again in the 136th, but that's the reason why. I mean, look, we've done a really pretty admirable job as an organization of educating legislators about this issue. Like 2 years ago, most of them didn't even know this was a law on the books. Like when we tell legislators, especially ones who have legal training, about the fact that signing a deal with a wholesale distributor means that you have an evergreen contract that's essentially unbreakable.
Right.
They say that's not a contract. Contracts have end terms. Contracts can be negotiated. Contracts can be held up in a court of law and adjudicated under contract law, but distribution contracts cannot, because of the franchise law. So what we're asking for essentially is to have these relationships be treated like any other business relationship. And this is an exceptionally important one for small breweries trying to get their products to market.
Mm-hmm.
If the wholesaler is taking like a 30% margin on the cost of the product, essentially that's income that the brewery gives up when they give up their self-distribution rights and sign with a wholesaler. So it's like it's essentially costing them that amount of money. But that's a significant expense that is not held to the same standard as any other business contract that a brewery signs. It doesn't make sense to us.
And the wholesalers are actually helping us educate legislators, because we have a staff of 3, and then we have 2 lobbyists on our side, and the wholesalers have about probably 15 to 18 lobbyists. And they're blanketing the state house to make sure that everybody knows that they don't want this to happen. But at the same time, then those legislators are going to call us and say, well, this is what the wholesalers say. So what is it exactly you're trying to change?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's one of the things I was looking at there, because one of the other questions we were going to get into was talking about just some of the balance you're seeing in Ohio with like just craft versus like some of the macro. But now you got like craft with broken up between the brewery, the distributor, and a retail, whereas like this other thing has happened. So it's just like a lot of parts taking place that are kind of like the battles are being fought, so to speak. So
we live in a great time to be craft beer lovers, though, right? Like,
best time ever. Yeah.
Right? You might have had like a cooler door or 2 of craft beer, right?
Yeah.
I walk into my Giant Eagle and there's an entire section now, like 8 cold doors, not to mention I turn around and there's like 2 stacks behind me. One of them's Christmas ale right now. So it's still a great time to be a craft beer drinker. There's a lot of options.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was here or whether it was in Cincinnati or Kentucky, it's like I've been in stores and go in there and decide what beer I want to get and just look around sometimes. I just watch people just like in amazement. And I've had people come up to me like, you got any recommendations? Like, I don't know. I don't have the shirt on that matches an employee. I don't have any, maybe I got the hat on or something, but they kind of think you look like a beer guy. Can you tell me what I, and it's like, well, what do you usually like? And they'll tell me, I said, well, try this. This will give you this, or this will give you that. And I feel like some stores should have paid me commission, because they're like, okay, I'll grab a 4-pack of this and a 4-pack of that. And they walk out the door. Right. And it's funny. I mentioned the Cincinnati Winter Beer Fest coming up. So one of the years I would volunteer a lot when I was back in Cincinnati. Great way to get in there and learn about the beer, work with the brewers, doing different stuff. And I was working in the Sam Adams Cincinnati booth one year. And this was probably after I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years. So kind of had some knowledge under me, all kind of stuff. So people are coming up and I'm like, well, try this, try that. And then people are coming around like, hey, I was told to come talk to Rod here. I'm like, yeah, that's me. They said you should know about this beer. And then I'm there with the Sam Adams general manager at the time, and he's there with his wife. And she's just like, what do you do for a living? And I'm like, well, I work in sales. And she just turns to her husband, you need to hire this guy. So, but it's very confusing for a lot of people that aren't really involved in craft beer. They're trying to figure out the different things because they see an India Pale Ale, they see an India Pale Ale, then they see a hazy, then they see a sour, all these different styles of IPAs, and they're like, oh, what's gonna, they get confused. So, and it's just like knowing those kind of differences and stuff. So to be a craft beer fan is great, but for the novice out there, it's also a great time to educate them, to get them more involved, because I haven't found anybody. I have people that say, well, I don't like beer. And it's like, but what don't you like about beer? What beer do you not like? And they always think it's either like the Bud or Coors or Miller. And it's like, I've done tastings with people, and they're like, wait a minute, this is a beer? And it's like, yeah, this is like a sour, or this is like a certain type of lager, or whatever it may be. And they're like, I can drink this. Like, yeah, you just haven't found a style you actually like. My wife used to not be a big fan of drinking a lot of the craft beer until she got wit beer. Once she got the wit beer style, that became one of her favorite styles to actually drink. And then she got into a couple more of the Euro type lagers and stuff. So it's just finding that groove, right? There's just so much to learn. And so that's why it's great to be telling these craft beer stories, to have you out there telling these stories, having you drive everything, because it's a great opportunity for people to find this great, again, I'll use elixir, delicacy, whatever you want to call it. This is just, there's a reason it's around since 5000 BC, right? So in one way or another. Actually, next week. I'll be back next week.
So have you been to Winter Warmer Fest?
Not yet. I know about it, but I never got a chance to go before I moved, but I know about it there.
Okay, March 1st. You got to drive up to Cleveland, but it's worth the drive.
Winter Warmer Fest.
Windows on the River.
Okay.
We think it's the best craft beer festival in Ohio. Now, we are wholly biased, but it also probably has the most attendance of actual brewers who are there to pour and talk about the beer. And then it's kind of competitive because, again, this is going on our 18th year of Winter Warmer Fest.
Okay.
And so the brewers treat it like a family reunion, right? They all want to be there, but they also all bring really great beer and try to one up each other. And so it's really a fun time.
No, Justin's been great about over the years. So I knew about Winter Warmer Fest. I actually put stuff out on the blog when we get the releases on it and stuff. So definitely can look to plan to be up there. The Cincy Beer Fest is probably the biggest one I've been to, outside of Oktoberfest, when we have that in Cincinnati. But you have like the Winter Beer Fest. They used to have it at Duke Energy. They're moving it for next year to where Xavier plays basketball, to that stadium, which will be interesting. But we used to get people in there. One of my buddies come up from Indiana, and again, that's the co-host with me. And I think the last time we went to one, it might have been close to 500 beers they had there, between 200 something breweries that showed up. It was huge. So to know there's another one out there even bigger than that, I could definitely make a chance to go there. But I know they do the Cincy Beer Fest, and they also take them and do the Columbus Beer Fest, the same people, right? Isn't it the same one?
It is the same one, but today they announced they're not doing Columbus.
Oh, they're not doing Columbus now. Wow. Are they going to still do Cleveland? Because they used to be like week. Wow.
Yep.
Interesting. Did they run into anything that you know of, or was just kind of like, hey, we can't stretch that far this year?
No, I texted with Craig because he's been real great to us about letting us come and sell merch and stuff at his events over the years and support our nonprofit. And he said that, attendance had just dropped drastically year after year since the pandemic. And so it didn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, that was actually, it was funny you say that, because that was one of the things I was going to ask you about on here. Because there has been drop off at attendance at some of the events following COVID or whatever, that this one obviously is a kind of an indication of that. But have there been other things you're seeing out there? Like, are you seeing other stuff numbers wise from the other festivals, whether it's the Winter Warmer or?
So Winter Warmer, we've sold out. We still sold it out last year. We'll put tickets on sale on Black Friday with $10 off. So hint to anyone in the audience who wants to come to Winter Warmer Fest, you should probably be online on Black Friday and get those tickets, because it's only good from like 7 a.m. till midnight for $10 off. But we had 6 1 Pour in Columbus this year, and after that just slower ticket sales. We decided not to do that one again. And what number 614 was that, Justin? We
I think it was like
17?
8. I want to say it was the 8th one. So we did skip it a couple of years because of COVID.
Right.
And we've had to move it. We've had to move it around from venue to venue because the price of everything has gone up considerably. Yeah, and Columbus as a market in general is one of the more expensive ones in Ohio, just across the board, because it's still growing so fast. There's just the prices of everything seem to have gone up a little bit more than in other markets. So Columbus is a little bit tough right now for festivals. There's still some people who are giving it a go. We've actually started dipping our toes into some smaller themed events. We do a thing called Mystery Beer Date. We have been doing it the last couple of years in conjunction with Ohio on Tap Week, which is essentially like a big statewide beer, like craft beer week, that's centered around our Ohio on Tap passport app that we've been running since 2017. But the Mystery Beer Date events, we get 15 breweries to participate. They each bring one beer, and we basically set it up like speed dating. So there's like 15 tables, and we put groups around each table. Everybody gets 5 minutes to like woo a group of people about their beer, about their story. Some of them sing songs, some of them dress up, give you cake and flowers. And then we ring a bell and everybody moves one table over, and then they do it all over again for 2 hours. And then at the end, like everybody who's there gets to vote on who their favorite date was and what the favorite beer was. And then we, announce those winners there at the end. It's like, it's only, 150 people, maybe 200 if we stretch it. So it's like a smaller event, but it's such an interesting experience. And the beer reps love it. The people who go to the event love it. It's like a lot of like one-on-one FaceTime. Like you were pouring beer at Cincy Winter Beer Fest for Sam Adams. Did you ever have 5 minutes of FaceTime with like somebody? Most of the time it's like they come up, they hand you your glass, you pour them a beer, they say good, and then you never see them again, or they come back to try something else, and you see them for like a grand total of a minute over the course of 4 hours, right? But you can like make a genuine connection, and really get people invested in your story, and it's a really interesting way to kind of tell those stories and keep people excited about craft beer.
Yeah, it's a great way to grow the culture doing that. It's when we had the COVID type thing and people were like, oh, things are down and down. And like I tell people, like, you can go through the course of history. There's always been things that kind of happen, and we just adjust to it. We adapt to it. I said, this is a bad thing that happened here, but we're going to adapt in different ways down the line. That it's going to be like one of those blips that would just happen one year, right? Like, and you have people that had to shake things up. You take it the beer thing, for instance. Everything was happening and breweries had to close down, but then it opened up an avenue for some of the breweries. And I believe in Ohio, you can still do it, right? Like where you can actually have, like, if you're in a certain area, you can have it delivered to the people or things like that and everything. They didn't take that back, right? But that was a whole new avenue for breweries to get their beer out, where before you had to go to the brewery. That was something that was able to stay in place, where now I can be at home, not have time to go to a brewery, but I'm within 10 miles of it. They can deliver it to me or something like that. So you have different ways that come out of the things too. So it's always not as much the gloom and doom as people put into it, but the opportunity that you can see that can grow out of it. That's what it all comes down to. And we're seeing different things like that happen. And so going to the smaller groups is just evident of that. Like, yeah, we're not maybe having these big type of things, but guess what? You weren't getting as much FaceTime as you do now with people. And it's kind of like, when we do stuff here, like on YouTube and social media, people are trying to get, thinking about getting all the big type channels because they get all this type of stuff. But they found like a lot of the smaller type channels are more reached out to you from different things because they realize your audience is more intimate with you. So a lot of companies now reach out to a lot of smaller type things rather than just going for the big type ones. And they're finding more success in that. So there's a thing to that, where there's an opportunity that you're able to grow by doing it that way. But it's funny you mentioned that when I was pouring a beer. Yeah, I didn't really get fired. I mean, I got 2 or 3 because people would say, "Where's Rod?" I didn't find Rod because I was told to come talk to him. But outside of that, but it's it's great, and it's finding those opportunities where you can actually find them. You had mentioned, I'm curious, like we were talking a little bit earlier about the ABV law. What is the ABV max now in Ohio?
There isn't one.
There isn't one at all.
100%.
They just took it off.
Well, no, I didn't know they took it all the way up because I knew like
beer, right? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I knew they were one of the states where you can get utopias, right? Because there's only like, I think last I looked, maybe 33, 34 states that you can buy utopias in, whatever that number is, was just 27%. But at the same point, you can't get like a snake venom sold in Ohio because you have to get that overseas, right? And that's like the 67 point whatever 5%. Oh, then now there's another one that's 75%. That's the most AB. Which at that point, are we really calling it beer still?
Well, right? What's the method, right? Because this is for beer that is fermented to whatever, right? You can't freeze off the alcohol. Like it's by natural processes. But there was some irony in that, we have a Boston Beer Sam Adams brewery in Ohio, and they couldn't brew utopias here because we had an ABV law. So, we're also helping a lot of our manufacturers, because I think a lot of them are making Russian imperial stouts and things that easily kicked over the 12% at the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And so no, that's good that you have that higher, because I know like one of the breweries that I got in contact with a lot of times when I was there was like Rheingeist, and they're big, like on their special limited edition type things. They'll make like bigger ABV type beers. But like I said, the one time I saw Utopias, it was in Ohio. So I knew it had to be at least 27 or whatever that it was actually at, right? So good to know. So those of you, again, go to Ohio, Ohio ABV beer if you happen to come through, just saying, possibly, because I got friends like that, one of the other guys down in Georgia, one of the other reviewers, I think they can't go past 12 or something on there. So
Southern states have it a little tougher when it comes to their alcohol laws in general. They've had to do a lot of work. We're a little fortunate in Ohio.
Yeah. Well, we had a get together in Niagara Falls back in July with like about 13 or 14 of us that do like YouTube type stuff, beer type thing, and you can just tell some of the guys that came from there, like, whoa, what is the ABV? Like some of the states, they weren't used to having those high ABV type things, So yeah, it's depends on where you're at. So you get a whole different world sometimes. And we're like, oh, take it easy. You're not used to that one. So
right. We had manufacturers who would have to tone down their beers to be able to sell them in Ohio.
Yeah.
There was the Ohio Unidragon, I think, was clown shoes because it had to come in under 12%. The Narwhal, things like that were, the almost whales back in the day.
Yeah, because they were too high. And that's where people would like come over to Kentucky, because Kentucky was higher at that time. And they'd be like, oh, I get the regular Narwhal over there or whatever. So, yeah, Narwhal's a solid beer, too, from Sierra Nevada. But they have so many solid beers. I mean, I was honored this year to be one of the electors for the New American Craft Beer Hall of Fame. And it's tough. We had 19 people to choose from. You had to choose 10. You had like Jim Cook was on there, and you had like Ken Gross and all these legends. You had, Michael Jackson and the writer. You had all these different things. And it was just like, man, this is tough. By number 10, I'm like, I don't know. So like,
this is the first year, right?
Yeah, it's first year inaugural class. So I feel like I had all good picks now. So we'll see. But that's kind of a cool thing. I don't know if there's anything being announced like you're doing in Ohio, if you guys have heard anything about that or dealing with it. But I know that they're going to be looking to put people around the country from different breweries to kind of do some stuff, I think, next year. So definitely going to put the word out, get them to Ohio and do some stuff. Or it might be me to be out there in Ohio.
Did you say Conway? Was Conway 1 year?
Conway?
Dan Conway or Great Lakes Brewing Company?
Oh, no. You know what? No, not on this one. Not on this class, I think, right now. For the ones that were chosen for the first. I mean, it was a tough list to get even on the first cut. Like, we had like Fritz Maytag was on there. It's like, how can you not put Fritz Maytag out there, right? Like Anchor. And then you had like so many other ones. So I feel like probably coming up soon will probably be Great Lakes at some point, I'm thinking. I mean, because I think the youngest of the people were probably like Sam from Dogfish Head was one of the nominees. So yeah, but it's a good thing and it's fun. I feel like it was definitely overdue to have something like that for praise. And so I'm glad they actually put it together.
So will there be an actual Hall of Fame? Will there be a place you can visit like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland? Yeah,
so that is one of the goals. So last week, I actually had on the president from the American Hall of Fame as we kind of went through and broke that stuff down. That was one of the questions I have for him, too. So it is slated down the line to try to have an American Hall of Fame actual physical thing, like maybe a few years down the road. But right now, it's so much of just the early sponsorship and early raising and the planning and everything else they're doing. But that is on the agenda to try to get something like that, which would be cool to actually go to and see. And the way it's kind of set up, kind of almost like the baseball type Hall of Fame voting, except it's not like really ranked. It's just everybody chooses their 10 and whoever gets the most, they go in and you go from there. Right. So it's kind of cool. It's a great concept. It's overdue. I told him, I said, well, if you get a thing, I mean, no one's going to probably vote him one there, but at some point you got to have a thing for Jimmy Carter, because without him, you don't have a lot of the home brewing, right? Because he's him. And then he's like, well, yeah, he said, it's funny because that came up because we also had a thing come up about the congressman who proposed the bill. I'm like, well, yeah, it's a tandem, right? You need to have like a plaque or something with those two that created the home craft brewing, the one that proposed it and the one that signed off on it, right? And without that, you don't have some of the Jim Cooks doing stuff. And you don't have some of the Ken Grossman doing things and some of the other pioneers that were out there in the 80s and everything following that, or late 70s. So
we just got into the Smithsonian within the last like 5 or 6 years, right? So
right,
I guess wait on Hall of Fame.
I want to know now. We're impatient people. We want to now. No, but that's good. The one thing too is that, and if anybody that's listening, if you do get to go to Columbus, Mary mentioned that North Market, you got to go. That place is awesome. Even if you don't drink, just the food places in there are like, just to grab a lunch, grab a bite to eat or whatever, a meal. But you got the brewery stuff. And there's one of the stores I use when I go to Columbus. I forgot the name of it in there, but it's a beer store. I usually pick up stuff when I'm in there too, because they usually have a pretty good collection.
It's the Barrel and Bottle. Yeah, it's the
Barrel and Bottle. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually a nice little spot to go in there and get. And they got taps there too. You can sit down and have a nice little drink as well. But Columbus, great little beer city stuff going through. Always enjoy Columbus Brewing and the stuff they're actually doing there. So a lot of good stuff. So again, Ohio, a gem of a city. I was going to say, so with everything like going through, and I'll go back to a point I was kind of going to earlier. So what are you finding now, like in the landscape of the balancing of everything from, and I talk about it like from, are you seeing things like the craft brewery versus macro? I don't want to say versus, but working better in combination with some of the macro. Because remember, there was a time where it's almost like everybody felt like the macro was squeezing craft beer out, but then macro started acquiring some of the craft beer. But I don't feel like there's a lot more of that stuff happening as much, or maybe it's not as seen as much. But you find like things are a little bit more balanced, where craft beer can get their spots a little easier than what it used to be, where
I mean, I think Anheuser-Busch is still making the planograms in all of the major retailers. So, you know, there's that completely unbiased thing. But I mean, it's just a tough industry for everybody right now in the beer scene. And so, you know, we're up against ready to drink cocktails, you know, every other type of alcohol, especially hard alcohol, wine. So all in all, I think we're all team beer right now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, like we see some stuff come out. We've just seen some stories come out. We saw, and again, it's not to sit there and attack like macro and that, but I know like some people were disheartened just recently out of Wisconsin where they're closing down like the Leinenkugel plant up there, right? And that's under Molson Coors, but it's like they're making these decisions, and it's kind of like,
well, I mean, AB closed down Platform.
Yeah.
A few years ago, right? Like, is it? I don't even know if it's still in this. Like, is Platform still a brand for them?
No, I haven't seen Platform in years, but I didn't see them before I moved. Like they went away, but it's kind of interesting. So Platform is one of those examples, right? Like they came out before they were bought by AB and Bev, I guess, talking about like their goal was to get sold to a big one and just cash in type thing. And it was kind of sad because when they first came out, they were seen as one of the fastest growing young craft breweries, right? And they were making good
as such by the Brewers Association.
Yeah, and they were making good beer. And then once they got, and it was always like become subjective, so I think in some people's minds, but I swear, once they got bought by Amy and Bev, I felt like there was a quality dip. And then all of a sudden,
Justin Wright to say anything else on this conversation.
Right? Yeah. I know.
You are welcome to opine and hypothesize and whatever. And you said all you're going to say about.
That's just me. That's just my personal feel. But I felt like, but then it was like all of a sudden they were just like gone. And it was kind of like, and sometimes you wonder like if a big brewery buys that little one just to pay them out and they kick them off, and then they don't have to worry about dealing with them and stuff. So I don't know. It's a funny game.
There's a lot of breweries to pick off. So that's a tough strategy.
Yeah, but I do find it interesting now that they're starting to sell some of them back, or some are breaking away from them, which is kind of cool. I saw like when Tim Burrell broke away from AB and Bev again, and then I guess Tilray's like coming in, but I don't know, is Tilray considered to be
Are they
different?
The Brewers Association considers them to be under the definition of craft. Yeah,
they do consider because they've been picking up some, so it's kind of like it's been cool.
But didn't they also just lay off their entire award-winning team of brewers like real recently?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Okay,
yeah. That's not. Everybody's got something going on. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to hear that as well. But speaking of Tilray, brings up another interesting prospect. So, in dealing with everything, and we're seeing this in some of the other festivals, where like even the Great American Beer Fest, where they cut back on some breweries being just a beer, but they started bringing the FMBs. Are you seeing like competing against them now, taking more? I mean, some of the FMBs are being done like, I guess you could say like maybe some of the breweries, but then you also have like THC drinks. You're seeing other things that are popping up. You're seeing the seltzers. Like, how is that all shaping everything now? Like, is it still like, is it eating into the foothold of craft beer, or is it kind of just working together with it? Is there still opportunities?
I think there's still opportunities. I mean, there's just so many options for consumers right now, right? I mean, Ohio just legalized marijuana last year. So there's that. There's marijuana beverages. THC, hemp-derived THC, is at this moment in time, I believe, still legal in Ohio. So there's those beverages being sold, ready to drink cocktails. Yeah, I mean there's just a lot of stuff out there. Athletic Brewing is now the 13th largest brewery in the United States, and it's a non-alcoholic.
Yes.
Right. So there's a lot of options for consumers out there.
Yeah, so that's been kind of interesting there, because I meant to include them as well when I was making that comment. But NA beers, for instance, so now you're seeing a lot of craft breweries started doing NA beer, or trying to maybe have something out there. But you're also seeing, I feel like there's a shift of the palate for the consumer taking place. So you're seeing the NA beers. You're seeing the return, which I'm fine with, on some of the different lagers that are coming back. It's kind of like, okay, maybe we've hit that point where now people are starting a little bit of IPA fatigue.
Where are we on the circle?
Right. Like I feel like we're kind of going down that slope where it's like, okay, I'm IPA fatigued out. Give me something different. Right. So, which I'm excited about, because I tell people one of my favorite styles is rock beer, and I'm seeing more breweries actually doing those. Like, give me that smoky beer any time of the year and I'm in. Right. So you're starting to see more breweries doing that. You don't have to go get St. Curla. You can now find some in the States that are doing it. I won't say it's as maybe great as St. Curla, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. So are you seeing, like, when you see
Ohio's won some smoke beer awards.
I'm not saying it did.
Smokey Robbins, right?
Yeah.
I think Wolf's Ridge won one. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to get that list, because I'll be back there. So when I'm back there, I need to know who to go to, right?
We started a list of all the goes back to like 2018 now. Justin, how far back does it go?
The list, the awards list goes back to the beginning of the Great American Beer Festival competition. So
wow.
Yeah. So we can tell you every Ohio brewery and beer that has won an award in the last however many years it is, back to whenever GABF started.
Yeah, I was going to say last year, 7 medals last year at Great American in Ohio got.
Yeah, a couple months ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago. So they going up 7, and the year before they'd actually done well too, I think. But yeah, Mad Tree, that's actually one of my breweries that I'm very common with. Legendary, yeah, and one of my friends, Mike, who does communications there. In fact, I'm already in touch with him for when I come back. We're already planning stuff to do down there at the brewery. One year when I went out there to interview him and stuff like that, had the Great American Beer Fest medal on and all kind of stuff. And they're like, everybody's like going around with it and everything. So it's pretty cool. It's great to see getting recognized for sure. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing, getting noticed out there. Like I said, Ohio is that almost like that flyover thing, but more and more steadily growing, just like the little well, it's actually going downhill, like the little snowball that gets bigger and bigger. People are starting to find out more and more about Ohio. So it's like,
are you from Ohio originally, Ron?
it's funny you say that. No, I'm from New Jersey originally, but I've lived in that area most of my life more than anywhere else, right? So when I left New Jersey at 17, 18, went to college, got hired into Cincinnati, and then kind of been at for up until the last 3 years when we lived here. And now we're going back. So I feel like I'm adopted Ohio now, maybe.
Fair. I feel like people they either flee Ohio, like, okay, I did that, or like Justin and I were like, no, I am from Ohio, and I'm going to do my best to stay here and make it as great of a state as we could possibly make it.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things that take place in Ohio, so there's a lot of good stuff there. It's not always as no place is always perfect, right? So you got some things that you may not agree with on things, but beer scene wise, like I said, I like it. It's not overly exposed. I feel like it's not got that was like hoity-toityness or whatever. Like if you were like in, I don't say like Portland or Denver, like that. It's not that stature where it's kind of like, okay, you're in the craft beer capital of the world type thing, blah blah blah. It's just like, hey, we got good craft beer. Grab a pint, grab a seat, let's chat. That's just how Ohio is, and so that's what makes it so enjoyable. But that's my opinion.
One of my favorite things is sitting in a tap room and just like sometimes I'll overhear someone talking about the Ohio on Tap app, and I'll just insert myself. I'm like, oh, are you using the app? Can we talk about the app? What did you find out about it? Why are you
right,
lady? Oh, it's my app. What do you mean it's your app? I mean, like, I helped start the app. I didn't write it, but like, yeah.
I was there. I I gave the okay.
I write the checks. Does that count? I think it counts.
Yeah. It's funny because you get Ohio Pint Day, which my glass is already packed, but I did get Ohio Pint Day glass from my friend TK that sent me the Jackie O's as well. There you go, right? It's like, so I got the one for 2024. It's already packed away, unfortunately, so I didn't have that out for tonight.
Wait, I can do this. I'm in my office. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Ohio Pint Day, which is awesome. And then one of my buddies and fellow social media advocates here, Dave, he's in Illinois, so he's a greeting from Illinois, but he just said beer and Grippo potato chips. That's enough for me. Throw a little Skyline and you'll be all right.
And some salty snacks.
Yeah, Skyline is a little hard for some people to consume. It's kind of like, if you're from the area, you're like, you grew up with it. You're just used to it. If you're not from the area, you're like, I don't know if that's really chili, but but it can grow on you after a point if you're here long enough, right? So
I feel like Columbus, like we don't really have a food, right?
In Columbus, nothing really.
Like no, Cleveland, like give me some pierogies.
Yeah.
There's some Cleveland associated foods I have growing up there, like Columbus. Like, what do we got? Wendy's? Like, I don't know.
You're like the Jan Brady of the state. You're a middle child.
Columbus is a test market,
right?
Like the whole point of Columbus is like, try it here and see if it works, and then take it everywhere, right? So,
well, you do have Ohio State there, so what better place to check out beers to see if they can succeed, right, than having 60,000 college students. Like, I think we got a winner here. So, a fun question for you guys here. What are like some of your favorite beer styles that you come across over the years that you really enjoyed? Are there ones that jump out to you like that's just your jam, so to speak? Like,
I'm an Irish lass, so mine definitely is like started with porters and stouts and brown ales. But I really love a good crisp flowery Kolsch.
Oh, okay. Rod, I'm with you, man. I'm into the Rauch beers like big time. Yes. I will generally, if there's one on a menu, I'm generally going to go that way. Rauch beers. I like a Schwarzbier. Some Dunkel lagers, things like that. We're lucky enough here in Ohio to occasionally have access to the best Weizenbach on the planet Earth. Helping Glow from Fatheads. It doesn't come around very often, but when it does, that's worth a special trip.
Okay. Fatheads has so many different good beers there too, but yeah, I'll have to.
Right. And we kill it in the hoppy beer category regularly, right? Between Brew Kettle and White Raja, Columbus Brewing Company,
Brew Kettle,
right? Uncle Rusty, Bodie, obviously any version of Fatheads, Headhunter. There's so many, Hop Juju. Yeah.
Yeah. When you get down to Dayton, you start getting the Warp Wing and some different stuff they're doing down there. At least last when I was there, they had some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, they just had their Little Esther's release. So they work with the Esther Price Candy Company, and they do a different candy-inspired beer every year.
Have you tried it yet? Have either of you?
I have not had to this year's release, no.
Okay, they had sent me the press release, and I had done it on the blog, but I'm like hoping I can get back and find somewhere to definitely give that a try as well. So again, so many good things. And then, it's funny because Cincinnati, we have I know it's Kentucky, but only Kentucky, but everybody down there loves it in Cincinnati, but some of that bleeds over into the Cincinnati type stuff with Brax and all of them too. But it's just so much fun. Like living in Cincinnati, I think at the time when I looked at one point, it was 70 breweries within a radius of 275. It was just crazy. I tell people how many breweries we had there.
Well, we had 70 regions. Well, we had 7 regions on our app, and the metro centers started getting really condensed, intense. A lot. So we broke it up, and so now each of the metro centers, like Cincinnati and the whole Southwest region, used to be one region. We're like, you know what? Cincinnati is its own, and now it's Greater Cincinnati, and now there's the Southwest, and then there's Columbus, and now there's Central, and now there's Cleveland, and then Northeast. So. Just sort of so many in the city centers.
I do have to get up north because one of my friends, Chris, he does Black Frog Brewing. I got to get up there and see that. And he told me years ago, he's like, you got to come up here and try this. He did a sweet potato beer or whatever because everybody's used to pumpkin, and he sells it out like crazy. And I'm like, I got to get up there because I don't know. He might be able to distribute it now a little bit, but he's grown so great up there. I love he's getting all the support and all that kind of stuff he's getting. But it's I got to get that sweet. I still remember. I got to get that sweet potato beer.
And he's opening a tap room in Cleveland.
Yeah, I saw he's actually now hiring another brewer and someone else over there too because I saw that was posted out. So that's great. That's great success he's building up there. So he's been putting in the work for a long time. So happy to see that. And one thing I was going to mention too or talk about. So it comes up commonly in a lot of stuff, and you'll see a lot of mentions, not a lot, but you'll see a good amount of mentions online and kind of stuff with different things, like the diversity part of it. What is in Ohio, are there things being done for the diversity type thing as far as, more women, more Black people, Latino people, all kinds of different groups? Because it's all about, we're not just no offense, Justin, the white guy with the beard type thing. We have a whole world of stuff that people can enjoy. And I feel like there's opportunities that were missed because people just don't get maybe a chance to get into that type of thing. Right. Yeah. So, and so it's kind of what can be done to maybe get that to grow? Because that raises more sales for everybody.
Yeah. I think it's definitely something the industry is looking at and we're looking at as an organization. We do have an HR DEI committee who regularly meets and tries to come up with different things that breweries can do to diversify their workforce and their customer base. We held the first women's summit in April of this year. Excellent. And so that was the goal of that was to raise money to create a scholarship. And so we raised $3,000, and I think we're going to launch a scholarship in January. But we're supposed to do that to our membership first, Rod. So
okay. Well, I know a lot of people do stuff to help with Pink Boots and things like that that are out there growing, and it's just the opportunities are out there, and I feel like it's just one of my high school friends, grade school friends. He actually lives in Baltimore here, and when I relocated back here, we got together, and so Baltimore had the first Guinness brewery, right? So we go over to Guinness and stuff, and we got together, and Guinness was one of the first beers he would drink. But he never knew about the IPAs they were doing or the other stouts or the other different. So it's kind of we get the little flight of things and try this, try that. He's just it was a new world for him to actually go into. And I think that's there's a lot of opportunity out there where people don't get unless someone brings them in
Yeah.
they don't know about it, right? And so I think that's where the opportunity is. How do you get more people brought into it?
We've got a job board on our website. So it's a pretty popular, like our breweries will post to it. Justin will find jobs and post them. So if anyone's interested in getting into the industry, that's an opportunity to look at the jobs board.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing too. I forgot to let me bring that up because I do have it up here. And in the comments, it is pinned for the website for those of you to definitely check that out as well. But share this in here before we shut down in a bit. All right, so here's the website here. So you guys can all go out there and make sure I see it. All right. Okay. And so you got the Ohio breweries, you got the things to remember if people are looking to get involved. You mentioned like the job board. So here's like the job openings where you can actually find out different things for different positions around the state that people are looking for different roles. So a lot of good things being up there. So thank you to you and Justin, Mary, for getting that out there. But
That's all Justin gets total credit for that board.
But about the association, you can find out all kinds of good details here, values and all that kind of stuff, what they're committed to. So it's great to go in and check out these things. And let me see here.
And I've learned today. It was today that I learned that my email's on there too. So if you have any pressing questions, I guess you can just go into the about section and find
right here.
Email Mary.
Email Mary, email Justin, email Ashley. There you go. And then the officers are all listed here too. There you go. Land grant, another good one. And Wolf Free. I mean, they're all good. They're all scared.
They're all our children. So
you're not gonna go wrong in Ohio. Little 50 West, little Rhine guys. There you go. You know, I've never had Royal Docks, but I've always heard good things about them. So that's another one I need to put on the list. And here you got like the facts around the Ohio craft beer, all the different things that you can see as well. So a lot of good things. And Ohio at I don't know if it was. I think it might have been a city thing that was done before, but I know there was like things ranked out where some of the cities came up to be top beer cities as well in the past. So a lot of good stuff.
USA Today recently had Columbus as one of the top beer cities.
Yeah, I know Cincinnati was a top 5 one of the years before we moved as well. I think Cleveland might have been on there too. So again, a lot of good stuff. You can find all the different breweries on here as well, kind of listed. So a lot of good ones you may see actually in your spot. Now this is here for the
this is last year's winter warmer list. We'll get that updated.
Yeah, that's last year's winter warmer. So you can see, okay, so you participated last year and stuff.
It looks very similar to that.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. And so, yeah, so make sure to check out the website. You also have some different things where you can get some gear to help support. I think there, did this open up right? Make sure. No, it didn't. Let me go back to this. Where is?
Hey, go back to under about.
Under about?
Yeah, go under about.
Okay. Let me go back. Okay.
Hit the Brewers Freedom Alliance.
This one here, Brewers Freedom Alliance.
Yeah, that'll tell you anything you want to know about how we feel about franchise law modernization.
Well, there you go, right there.
Here, let me steer this.
So all the issues what they're fighting for. Yeah, so a great way.
Help? You can help.
Yeah, so right here, stay to loop for email. Yeah, send a message. If you're in Ohio, contact your local lawmakers here. So, and what I will look to do, I'll look to, I don't know if I put it in there yet, but I can put the link to the site into the description box. But again, if Justin gets me the other details, I can add some other stuff out there for some things as well. I was trying to, share this tab. So yeah, so you have the thing where you can also get some swag and apparel as well if you want to support the Brewer Association. This is some of the things you can actually do too.
The flag behind me.
Yeah, the flag. Yeah, I think that was the other one on here. I think right when I went back to home. Yeah, there's a flag.
And we're gonna have some new stuff rolling out in the first couple of months of 2025, also we contracted with an artist in Cincinnati to draw us up a little Ohio Craft Beer mascot.
Okay.
So yeah, we're pretty excited to put that on a bunch of stuff coming up in 2025. That'll be really fun.
Nice. So a lot of good stuff there. Check out the Brewer Association. People that want to get involved, there's ways to do that. I know there's ways to volunteer, to be a part, to kind of spread the word there. So if you're in Ohio, reach out. And if you're not in Ohio, wherever state you're in, I know, Paul, you're here from PA Brew News. Reach out in PA. Paul does another great beer channel. Dave does a lot of stuff already in Illinois with stuff he does out of Chicago. But, it's helping craft beer grow as a whole. So it's a good opportunity. Oh, so you going to say something, Mary?
Oh, I was gonna say, if you're in the Cleveland area and you want to volunteer for Winter Warmer Fest, that'll be going out in December.
Okay, excellent. So a lot of volunteer opportunities, and I always tell people it's great if you volunteer, not just because you may get free beer, but it's just to learn. Beer? You get to get behind the scenes. You get to meet a lot of the brewers. You get a lot of chance to really learn and pick up your knowledge, and it's a fun time overall too. So
you're super knowledgeable. Great. They'll send people to come talk to you.
Yeah, they send people over to you. Like, who sent you? Like, I don't know who that is, but okay. Man, my name's floating around somewhere out here at the beer festival. But yeah, so it's all great. As far as like going forward, what do you anticipate for 2025? Anything? I mean, outside the bill and stuff, we talked about other things you're kind of forecasting or anything like that out there. You see?
Well, if you're looking to open a brewery or you're working for a brewery, our conference is coming up in January. In Columbus, the 27th to the 29th. Those tickets are available now. We're going to have Kate Bernat from Sightlines and Dr. J from the Brewers Association as our two keynotes. And then also on our website under events, under conference, is the whole roster of all the presentations that are going to be out there. There's stuff for people who've been in the brewing industry for a long time. There's stuff for people who are brand new to the brewing industry. There's stuff about the business of beer. And it's really just an opportunity to network and meet a lot of the people in the brewing industry in Ohio right now.
Okay. And Justin, anything you want to add there?
And I mean, 2025 will be year 8 of the Ohio on Tap Brewery Passport.
Yep.
We've got more than 46,000 users on the app that are going around getting virtual passport stamps, trading them in for or claiming for merchandise rewards. We've been doing that for almost 8 years now. We got 325 breweries on the passport right now. Okay. It's great if you find yourself in Ohio, or if you live here, or if you're visiting or whatever. Yeah, go to 10 breweries. We send you a sticker. I mean, yeah, that's it's worth the price of admission because it's a free app, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and if you're visiting Cleveland or Cincinnati or Columbus, or Dayton, like, you can knock out 10 breweries in a weekend. It's really not too hard.
Yeah. And depending on where you're at, I know in Cincinnati they're pretty popular, and I think they had them in Columbus, and I'm sure in Cleveland. But you get a lot of the bus tours that do it now too, where you get like 3 breweries in a day or whatever. They'll just drive you around. You don't have to worry about driving or anything like that. Or you can do the paddle wagon, work off the calories, and they'll drive around a different bar. Yeah, yep. Those are pretty common in the state too. So that's
you call them the woo wagon. Yeah. Apparently, when you sit on those seats, the woo just comes out of you. Woo!
Yeah. Which, if you get the best seat, it'd probably be the head of the little wagon where your back is, or you're facing everyone, because there's no pedals there. At least the ones I've seen. So. So you get to be like the guy on the boat, like stroke. Like, you get to be like calling out pedal. But a lot of good stuff out there. Justin, Mary, thank you again for coming on. We'll go ahead and get it wrapped up here. And if you want to hang out for a couple minutes, we can talk afterward. But hopefully everybody that watched enjoyed. If you're listening back to this on the podcast, there'll be notes and stuff there in the comments section as well. I'll put the links and all that kind of stuff. And then great stuff out of Ohio. I love doing these kind of things. I love having these guests on. Oh,
Ohio.
I don't think Michigan people are going to fight you this year. So they're just trying to survive up there in the state up north, as they call it. But yeah, Ohio State's back out there now. I mean, if they don't beat Michigan this year, I don't know. Ryan Day could be in trouble for sure. But yeah, they should have.
You got to beat Indiana this weekend.
You got to beat Indiana Saturday first.
Yeah, Indiana that'll be a huge game. That'll be interesting. Are you going to the game? Because it's in Columbus, I think, right?
I can hear it from my house if I stand on my porch.
Okay.
I will know if there's a touchdown before the TV tells me that there's a touchdown. If there's a collective, yeah, I'm like a mile from the stadium.
Yeah, I said that my buddy Todd. My buddy Todd that I mentioned about, he's an Indiana fan, so he'll be on the live stream tomorrow night with me on that one. So I'm sure he'll be praying for Indiana to pull it off. But he's kind of like, he's a little reserved about it. He's kind of like, it's the Buckeyes. I'm not getting my hopes too high, but that Indiana team has been surprising everybody thus far. So it'll be one of the games to watch this weekend.
Well, tell him to download the Ohio on Tap app and come check out some breweries while he's in the capital city here.
Oh, he's already coming back. Like I said, him and his wife, they made the Jungle Gyms run. Now that I'm coming back up, they're already planning to come back up to do some more stuff in Ohio. So yeah, he'll be doing some stuff. They'll be running a lot of the reviews on his channel. Actually, are probably going to be Ohio beers since they picked up so many from Jungle Gyms from the area. So yeah, so he's Ohio affiliate. He's affiliated with us down there in Indiana. So yeah. But thanks again for coming on. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Let me know anything else. You think of something, leave a comment on the video if you're watching this on a replay, or if you watched it live and you meant to ask something, you forgot to ask what you were going to ask, drop a comment in there as well. But that being said, we'll go ahead and get up out of here. Be back tomorrow night with the Happy Hour live stream. Thanks again to Mary and Justin for joining me on this one.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.